Go. Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of Asura's Bride called Unravel. What is unraveling? And we have Myrna today, or Mem. And yeah, let's hear from you.
Hey, I'm Mem. I am a mom of 31, and I am normally a content editor for websites, but recently I've started my own YouTube channel. So if you like K-pop and you like funny things, please come check it out. It's 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗃 on YouTube. And I also have an Instagram Instagram page that kind of is like connected with it, and it's just 𝗵𝗂𝗀. So yeah, come check it out. It's fun. I like to put a lot of funny videos and reels up there. So that's basically what I do, is, a lot of jokes.
Awesome. And I don't know anything about K-pop, but we just had a conversation about it, and Mem is clearly very informed, and passionate. So yeah, check it out. So yeah, and you'll start us off with the episode.
Yeah, so we come in basically, and he's like touching her face, and yeah.
Already
it's like, let's just start this episode off with a bang, and it's pretty sweet because you can tell that, neither of them are wearing clothes. They're in the bath, and he's just sitting there like with the firelight all around, or the candlelight all around while they're in the bath, like rose petals, and it's like, as romantic as you can possibly get. There's a setting right there.
Yeah, I don't know why she fell for it. He's like, yes, in my country we all take baths together. I'm like, that is probably the biggest lie you ever told.
I mean, it could be, but not in that setting. So
yeah, and with the rose petals, that's not normal.
Definitely not. And it's usually with like more people. My dad was actually stationed in Japan for a while, like back in like the 70s, and he recalls this time, like, he got really close to his Japanese family, and as a Mexican kid from Southern California, he wasn't ready for going in the family bath, but like he said, like some like old grandma just like tossed him in, like he wasn't happy.
Okay, take that back. I was wrong.
But it's not like, it definitely could be a cultural thing depending on where this is supposedly taking place. But at the same time, and in Korea, it's also very normal for at least men to take baths with each other, like, and women to take baths with each other. It's not, and in public baths, but so it's, that's a thing. But it's normally not with like candles lit all around and like rose petals and like, like just the two of you,
know, in a pretty small bathtub too.
Yeah, got a cuddle in it. So yeah, that's yeah, like, oh yeah, okay, sure. It's just, I feel like she knew exactly, because actually if you go down after that shot of them together in the tub with him touching her face, and he goes, are you scared of me? And she like shakes her head no, and she's blushing, just obviously like, girl, you knew exactly what you're getting into. So, and as you scroll down there, they're getting closer, and they're like kissing in the bathtub and just getting like all hot, for everybody. And he's obviously super into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at the point where they kissed, that's where she knew it was not platonic.
I feel like she knew beforehand. She was just like, all right, could be worse things with, sharing a bath with a super hot dude with a neck tattoo. But,
I have to say, I'm very happy they took a bath, because I always make sure to take a shower before, certain activities take place. And like I said, my husband usually showers in the morning, but whenever he takes a shower at night, I'm like, I know what you got on your mind. So
yeah, it's actually a cultural thing. Like I've read, I don't know how, like, but from what my research into it, in Korea, that's usually like a sign. It's like, do you want to take a shower first? It's usually a sign that sexy times are going down.
Yeah, and they were like, he especially had been battling, and I don't know when the last time he took a bath was. So they definitely needed to wash themselves before any activity just went on.
Well, there's that whole scene with her like getting roughed up by the bandits and stuff like that. You got to be sweating during that. But I've also read that like deodorant isn't a thing in Korea because they lack the gene for smelly armpits, like for like BO. And I was like, what kind of gene is that and where can I get it?
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, maybe they don't smell just as bad as we think they smell. Probably still smell pretty bad. I mean, there's no way. He's like been trekking through the woods, after being like covered in blood and stuff like that. Like, there's no way you can't smell at least a little bit. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I'll look that up. Also, I was thinking about the timeline. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they just met yesterday, right?
Like back in the day, people got married without even knowing each other. So, whatever. It's chill.
No, I'm totally fine with that because I met my husband and like literally I met him on Sunday and by Saturday we were like, okay, we're getting married and we were in love. So like I've done
too
that.
far.
But it was.
I started dating my husband like we were dating but not officially dating like end of October. It was literally like Halloween where he's like, no, I want to make this like a. He's so cute. He told me he's like, I don't mind if you don't want to date me, but I don't want you dating anyone else. I was like, so you want me to date exclusively you? And he's like, yes. So but we started doing that in October, got married in early May.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
But my great grandparents met each other the day of their wedding.
Really?
Yeah, it was an arranged marriage and they were together. He died like a month before his 100th birthday. So, who cares? They just met each other yesterday. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, every single time I watch like a Disney movie, I always count how long it is between when they meet and when they like fall in love. It's always like, all these movies take place like a day, maximum a week, maximum.
Yeah, maximum.
So yeah, but, I'm not trying to putting that down either because like I said, I've done that and like the society that I come from, like with the matchmaking, they all got engaged either on the first date or the third date. And I remember like when I had my like rebellious phase and I left that community, I was like, I'm going to take a long time to date. And then I did the same thing and got engaged on the third date. So whatever, Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, let's just be completely fair. Like Lily's drawings are amazing. And if you saw Ulaan in person, like what he looks like, how many people be like, no, I don't want to take a bath with you?
I probably wouldn't because he's a complete stranger, but I don't know. I've never been tested in that way, so I don't know.
Yeah, so who knows? But
and also she's obviously they had a connection before, and she is all alone in this foreign place. I don't think it's not like she was treated very well before, like she wasn't respected very much before either. And now, and here's this guy who is treating her well and is her only, the only person she knows in this strange camp where she's feeling very overwhelmed and unsure of the future.
And he saved her more than once by this point, right?
So, sorry.
I said he saved her more than once, like from, the bandits. And then wasn't there like that weird like
dog
thing? Yeah, dog thing. Mm-hmm. So, save her life twice. I mean, that's kind of like definitely some brownie points right there. So
mm-hmm. Yeah. And for him also, like she is different than all the other women he's known. And he feels like she maybe understands him or is not quite as docile as other women that he seems to have in his harem. But yeah, they're attracted. And there's that awesome kiss. And yeah, you can continue.
No, it's okay. But then he just pulls away and goes, like calls her my sweet little princess. Like, dang boy. All right. And goes on. He goes, how you torture me so. Like, oh man, way with words there, sir. I thought you were, mostly a soldier that was hanging out with mostly men, but apparently you got some tips.
Yeah. And I mean, he's looking at her so intently.
Yeah.
And with a lot of sincerity in his eyes. And that's something that a lot of people like about Ulaan is how emotionally open he is. And he doesn't seem to have any shame with proclaiming his feelings and showing it all on his face. He's not trying to protect his heart by pretending he doesn't like her.
No, definitely not. Like, it's just like, no, this is what it is. Like, though, to be fair, if anybody made fun of him, he could totally beat them up. So like, I think that being that strong and powerful gives you a little bit more leeway to be emotionally open because nobody's going to mess with you,
Good point. I also want to point out, because I know a lot of people like this, his fangs. We're in the panel where he's pulling away, and for some reason fangs seem to excite people. So I like test it out. I'm like, oh, I have to open my mouth real wide for you to see my fangs. I'm like, okay, I don't know if I find that so attractive, but whatever, it's okay.
You know, to each their own. Maybe, you know, I guess think Twilight had more of an impact on people than they want to admit, but you know, maybe there's a little bit of buying into that quite a bit, you know, but
yeah,
I mean,
and to me, I think it's honestly the violent edge that we like.
Yeah.
You know, where there's that element of like power and strength, and like he can hurt me, you know, thing.
Well, I always think of it as like almost like a little bit animalistic. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
give him that a little bit. I mean, like, you know, that's something that people like is, you know, like I've heard, I haven't said this. I've heard other people saying, like, calling their partner like an animal and stuff like that. Literally, he's has some characteristics of an animal, so you know, just a little bit like raw. So maybe that's a thing that people are super into.
Right. Maybe like the fact that there's so much passion for the other person that they're like an animal in that sense.
Yeah.
In their desire.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a way of feeling wanted and loved.
There you go. I can't tell though in this when he says, you know, like how you torture me. So I can't tell if that's him gripping her arm. It seems like it.
Yeah. It's a little darker, his skin, and it's a large arm. Yeah.
So like, yeah, I feel like that's him. Yeah, so it's him gripping her arm. I couldn't tell at first. I was like, is that her like maybe covering herself a little bit, or is that him like, you know, grabbing her a little, like getting a little, you know, manhandling there a bit? But that can also be very sexy. So
oh yes, definitely
something I feel that a lot of readers are like, yes.
This whole scene is gorgeous and super romantic, and just giving us everything we desire. Like all the cuddlies, all the warm fuzzies.
And like, she's just so pretty. Like, Lily is just an amazing artist in the way like she captures, you know, people, and she just draws. The art is just so beautiful. Like you can see like out like the flames in the background and stuff like that. Just like the little details even are just so good that she manages to put in there. Like you can, like if you like at first I missed it, but you can see that, you know, she's blushing. So you know that you can like it's almost, it's faint, but it's there, and you can kind of like it's, I think that adds to it. It's just that the colors are just so good. Like I love it a lot. I'm gonna continue on from, sorry, I can talk about the art all day long, but
yeah, please do. It is beautiful. We talked about the color palette here because it's limited and it's very distinct. So it's you know, in the wood scenes it's very pale and washed out and white, and then here it's like, if it, you know, it's all like rose tones. So it's just beautiful.
It's visually warmer is what it is. Like, in that it really kind of sets the tone here. Like, you know, as you said, like out in the woods it's white, it's like pale, you know, it's obviously cold, but the way that she has it colored here, it's obviously like a warm moment. Sorry. Yeah, so I thought that was pretty clever. Like, I'm glad you pointed that out. But yeah, she's just going on like, I didn't mean to. He goes, little girl, surely you don't expect me to remain unmoved at such a moment. Like, dang boy, like, you tell her, you know.
His forehead on hers, and like his eyes are scrunched up, like he's expressing his emotions.
Well, not only that, he's like letting himself like be unguarded with his eyes closed like that, and with it, and it was like, it's very like, it's very close, but it's very an unguarded thing, which is saying something for a man who's used to like being attacked at any given opportunity. So he's literally letting his guard down for her, like physically letting his guard down for her. Like, she could stab him for all he knows, but he's not in a position to fight back. So he's, you know, dropped it all that for her, basically.
Yeah. Aww.
I love that though, with his like eyes closed, and she's just kind of like looking up into him with their foreheads touching. That's so sweet. But he goes on to say, I wouldn't be a man if I did, neither would you be a woman. but you are more than just a woman.
Yeah, that is so validating. I think also the fact that he says, even just calling her a woman is already very validating, because she's probably been treated like a little kid her whole life and not taken seriously. So just calling her a woman instead of like a girl or a maiden or something is already giving her a level of respect that she probably hasn't received before. I know, like, I'm 31 now, right? If somebody called me a girl, I'd be like, I'm not a girl, I'm a grown woman. Like, it's a sign of respect.
Yes, definitely. And he's just like, touching her with his, it looks like the way it's drawn, it looks like his fingertips are like just like kind of doing like this type of thing, which is, while he's, got her hair in his hands, it's just very like pulling him closer to her. Or sorry, pulling her closer to him.
Right. And he's saying, he's telling her, right, the first thing he's saying is like, I see you like a grown woman sexually, right? I'm sexually moved at this moment. But then he tells her, like, you're more than that. You're not just a woman. And he goes on, and you can talk about this, to say what he appreciates in her as a person.
Right. And he says, you're so brave, you're sweet, so sexy. And, he's just like, just staring in her, and her eyes get like all big and, doe-eyed. And, like, I think I read somewhere that we're like, we react to big doe-eyed things because it makes us think of like, it makes us like act, like makes us think of something like small and like harmless almost,
Babies probably, because their eyes are proportionally bigger than the rest of their features.
Definitely. But then you go from like her sweet little doe eyes staring up at him to his red eyes and his fangs, him gritting his teeth, going, God's like, oh.
Yeah, he's having a hard time controlling himself.
Definitely could tell that. Yeah, like, I mean, he's definitely like in a situation where I'm sure, like, I mean, imagine being like, okay, you're gonna sit naked in a hot tub with someone that you're sexually attracted to, but you can't touch each other. How well does that work out?
Wait. There is a TV show. Okay, this is the most vapid TV shows I've ever seen. It's called Too Hot to Handle. And basically the premise is they put like 8 super attractive people on an island in a bikini all day long and they make them do sexual activities, but they're not allowed to have sex with each other. Basically, they'll win like $10,000 if they don't have sex by the end of the 8 weeks. It is the most ludicrous show I've ever not finished. I did watch a couple episodes, and I was like, me and my husband watched it. We were like, this is the trashiest thing I've ever seen.
This is literally, my best friend told me about this. This was on, like, he was running out of stuff to watch, and he watched that. And this is before I convinced him to finally watch K-drama, which opened up a whole new world for him. But he was telling me all about this. I'm like, why are you watching this? But yes, from what I hear about that show, that didn't work out for anybody. So
I didn't finish it. I was like, I wanted to finish it, and then I just couldn't make myself do it. I was like, I really want to know what happens to me.
You'd lose brain cells. You would lose brain cells. But yeah, basically he's like leaning into her, even he's getting like a little bit flushed in the face, and then he just stands up and basically gives her a nice big view of everything going on down there. And she hides her face because imagine, like, here I am in all my splendor.
Oh, one wonders if this is his way of continuing the conversation or of avoiding. Like, he ostensibly got up because he couldn't, handle being close to her, but I don't know if this is helping the matter.
I mean, probably not. So to be fair, that isn't the most attractive part about men, but I mean, she's never seen one before, judging by her reaction.
Yeah, and he's got that tattoo goes all the way down his back, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
and his hair, obviously, his long, gorgeous hair. Both of them have long, gorgeous hair.
Tell me about it. I wish my hair looked that long and thick and gorgeous, but unfortunately, I do not have the amazing hair gene that these people in Lily's comics seem to have. So but I love how much detail, like, considering you don't even get to see most of the tattoo because his hair is covering it, like the detail Lily goes in, like, puts into drawing this tattoo is incredible. Like, we barely get to see any of it, but you can still tell it's very detailed. But yeah, then all you see is some stomping, and she's like peeking through her eyes, like, no, what's going on there? And
like, is it safe to look at? Can I look? Like, will I have to guard my eyes again?
Yes. And then you can tell that he left, and she just goes like, wait, like there she is, just surrounded by all these, like, look like lamps with fire in them and this stuff. You're just like, wait, what just happened? Now I'm like alone in the bathtub. Yeah. And she just goes, he left. I would probably have that same reaction too. Like, what? In fact, that actually happened. Something similar like to that happened with my husband. I was just like, what just happened right here? Like, what? So I can kind of understand what's going on with her there. Like, you're sitting here talking about how sexy I am, we're naked in a bathtub, and then just see you later. What?
Oh wow. Okay, I'd like to hear that story, but
maybe one day. And she goes, she's just sitting there, like, I mean, she's got like water on her face, but it looks more like like that in the comic where somebody's like sweating, like, what, and she just goes, it's fine, we both got carried away, that's all. Sure it is, lady, sure.
This is like her disappointment speaking, because it's like a little bit of the sour grapes where she's like, oh, he can't have it, then, oh, I don't want it after all. She's like, well, he rejected me, so clearly he didn't really want me. Like, she wants to make herself feel better.
Yeah, I can understand how not only just disappointed, but maybe like how angry she would be in that moment. Like, I got riled up for nothing.
Right. I know, what am I gonna do now? Okay.
I feel like it's embarrassing because it kind of makes you look like an idiot. Like, am I more invested in this than he was? Like, well, great. You don't want to. It's really hard for women specifically. I think you don't want to show weakness. Like that. Like we get a lot of, I don't know, like flack already in dating, and especially like depending on what, how we. Sorry, my children are fighting each other. We get, a lot of flack for that kind of stuff, and we get a lot of labels. But, especially I'm thinking, of like however many hundreds of years ago this was, where women were seen as not supposed to be sexual creatures. And she's like, well, great, there goes that.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's funny because on one hand, not supposed to have sexual desire, but be there for sex. Like, that's what their role was, especially for a king in this harem.
Yeah, basically, like there was no like real romancing back then. So, it's just like, women are to make babies with. That was the sex. So, and they weren't supposed to really question it. But so I can kind of understand, like, from her viewpoint, maybe, like, well, great, I just showed, weakness in front of this guy who's a mortal enemy of my kingdom, by the way. So
I don't think she necessarily showed weakness. Like, she didn't really respond to him. But probably in her head she was feeling things,
I mean, she didn't push him away and say no. So
true. Yeah.
But then, she goes on, she's got out of the bath, she's covering herself, and she goes, he'll send me back as he promised, and I'll return to my quiet existence as fourth princess. It's, very disappointing. You can really feel the disappointment just kind of like emanating out of the panel, I think. And man, like, just to whatever cloth she's putting around herself, again, this, like, the things that don't need to be detailed that Lily really details. Like, you can see, the sword in the background, the wall lamps and sconces and stuff like that. Just so much detail in every single panel. It's just beautiful.
This is like a king's tent. I mean, these are all beautiful objects, which I'm sure were not cheap back then when everything was handmade.
Oh no, it probably took forever to make them, just like the beautifully painted cloth that she's putting on, just like the designs are just gorgeous. Definitely not something that normal everyday people wear. That's for sure.
Mhm.
And she goes, weeks will pass and then months and years. And before I know it, again, all the detail in this panel with her long hair over this, like you don't even get to see much of the design, but still the design is gorgeous. And before I know it, nobody will ever remember that someone called Princess Eugen had ever stepped foot into this place. And you can just see, you don't even have to like see her face, you can barely see her face, but you can just really feel the sadness and disappointment. This is probably like the only like fun thing she's got to, I don't know about fun, but this exciting thing that she's gotten to do in her entire life. So
Yeah, I think this is the only time she's felt seen, and if she knows if she goes back to her life in her kingdom, she's not going to be seen and not going to be taken seriously and not going to have much autonomy and choice over her life. And I think, with Ulaan, for the first time, even though their connection was so brief, she feels seen by him and she feels respected by him and she feels more freedom to be herself around him.
Right. And, she just sitting there softly touching the outfit that he gave her, which was, his mom's. So, just like a lot of meaning, just like in just little, even in just like the smallest of panels. But I'm always so captivated looking at these panels, like you can, with the lamps and everything, just so beautiful. But then you see, or you don't really hear it, but I guess mentally you hear the stomp, 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 and he just like flings the tent back open, and she's like, ah, and he's sitting there with like a towel around his waist, and that's about it, in the snow.
More dressed than he was before, we will note. And those pecs and abs. I'll use a Hebrew phrase called 𝗦𝗽𝗀𝗀𝗀. It's a phrase that means 𝗦𝗽𝗀𝗀 actually means without the evil eye, and it's like whenever you want something to continue and like the evil eye shouldn't touch it, you just say 𝗦𝗽𝗀𝗀𝗀, and it's like so it's people might be offended I'm using this phrase in this situation, but I'm just saying that we want this has to continue.
Yeah. Like I'm sitting here looking like, dang man, did she just like sit there and like look at like bodybuilders while she was while she was drawing this? Man's got like an 8-pack.
Lord.
You just get to see him like from top to bottom, and like I even love like the detail she put into his calves, and that sounds crazy, but you see so many of these like guys that are working out and they got like little chicken legs, but not Ulaan. She gave him like the calves of like he's got huge calves. I was gonna say like a dancer. Like my kid's a dancer, and I did some dance. And one thing about dancers, a lot of them, they have big calves. Especially because they're on their toes a lot and stuff like that, especially when they're spinning and stuff like that. There's this male dancer I follow. His name is James Whiteside. He dances for American Ballet Theater, ABT, or is he? I can't remember. He's in New York. But yeah, and he's got like the biggest calves I've ever seen on a person. Like they're huge. And
what's his name? James
Whiteside. He's on Instagram, and he's besties with 𝗪𝗡𝗪𝗀𝗧𝗵𝗲, and they're actually paired together a lot on stage. They're both principal dancers, and he's got huge, I mean huge calves, and his claws are gigantic. And I'm pretty sure that she used him as a reference here for the lower half. Like they're gigantic.
Yep, they are. Mr. Warrior Boy has got those muscles.
Which, I mean, you got to think he was like stomping around through the woods, so definitely build up your legs that way. A lot of horseback riding. You gotta, when you're riding horses, you do use a lot of your leg muscles. So there you go. That's got to be it, right?
Yeah. So whatever resolve he had to run away from her didn't last very long.
No. It took 5 seconds, and then he was like, nope, here I come. Never mind.
Yeah, it was like 3 seconds. Okay, a little longer because she had time to get out and wrap herself. But yeah, he
was less than a minute.
Yeah, and poor guy is probably freezing outside too.
Because he was wet. He was wet,
Oh.
Like, maybe this is like the old-timey version of taking a cold shower, like gotta get his head on straight for a second.
Yeah. And you know what?
Or walk
Even
out
with
in the
his head on
snow.
straight, he wanted to come back. So
There you go.
yeah. So now we have this horizontal panel of him standing at the entrance of the tent and her sitting there, with her robe just delicately hanging off of her shoulder a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Looking, beautiful and graceful and a little bit like in need of protection,
Definitely a very vulnerable state right here.
Right. Yeah, she still looks sad. And then he comes to her and he says, remember when you said, and then he takes her hand, that you could put something right through here if you wanted to, and he brings her hand to his chest, to his heart. Oh, so emotional. And he's leaning over and he says, I think you just did that, you Jen.
I you have to the power of touch with other people is so strong, and they're literally touching each other. When your kids are first born, they found that putting baby just naked right out of there onto mom's bare chest is really good for them and actually reduces a lot of issues, after birth and that kind of stuff. So, and in fact, when with most of my kids, it wasn't the second one so much because she had her oxygen cut off, so she had to be rushed away right away. But the first one and the last one, I got to hold them for a full hour, just skin to skin. It's really powerful. And here they are touching skin to skin. She's touching his bare chest.
The look in her eyes. I mean, it looks like she got her hope back. She has this very anticipatory look, as though oh, here I thought you rejected me and I was going to go back to living my horrible or not so great optimal life. And now he's just coming back and telling her that she stole his heart. I mean, this is just so affirming for her, and this is just changing her whole future.
And what a way to say you've stolen my heart than to literally put her hand on his bare chest while they're both mostly naked.
Just beautiful, gorgeous, and everything we want to hear. And then she closes her mouth. The first expression is a little bit shocked, and the second one is kind of accepting his love with happiness. But then she thinks, no, it isn't right. He needs to know the truth. And then she says, Yuwa. And he kind of, she takes her hand away because she wants him to know, before accepting his love, she wants him to know who she really is. She doesn't want him to come in under false pretenses. And
right.
Sorry, go on.
No, just as you were saying, she's like, no. And it's almost like she's a little bit scared, but she's like, nope, I'm gonna tell him. She looks scared, and you can see him, being like, wait, what? You're who now?
And the next look in her eyes, she's extremely earnest and she's nervous about what he's going to say. And he says, what? And then she says, my name is Yuwa. And she's not looking at him while she says this. He is, bent over. She's kind of nestled almost in between his thighs. And, yeah, he's in a very receptive position, but she's nervous. She's, closed in to herself, not looking at him. And he says, you. And then at that moment, she had good timing because
perfect timing.
His helper, or whatever it is, rudely rips open the door, irrespective of what could have been going on in the tent. There should be a do not disturb sign. Just saying.
There you go. I don't know, however old this is supposed to take place in, just a sock on the door. And the socks on the tent, leave them alone.
Yeah. And he's like, Your Majesty, he bursts in, it's snowing, some snow gets in the tent. And then Yuwa kind of rushes into Ulaan and tries to hide. And he pulls her in. He's like, what the hell do you think you're doing? And because she is embarrassed.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't really want to be caught by you don't want to be seen by other people in that kind of scenario, I think. I mean, that's embarrassing for anyone. You're caught mostly naked. You're wrapped with a towel or a blanket. You know what I mean?
Especially, I mean, she's so young, she doesn't have sexual experience. She's having this very extreme emotional encounter. Like, it's different if you're older and you've had sex a ton of times and it's just not an emotional
Even,
situation. But this is like a very intense moment for her, period. Forget the sexual stuff.
well, even then, like, I mean, some, I was married and, my kid walked in, they're like, "Ugh," like, get out, you don't really want to be, caught that way ever. So it's definitely worse in this situation because she has never been in that situation. Now there's like random guy just bursts in on her. She's mostly naked, like with a dude, not just any guy, but the king.
Yeah, and he says, "Your Majesty, we need you immediately. They have found the missing Princess Yujen. She has been wedded to the Qianli Prince as planned, and the alliance between Qianli and Shan has been formed." And Yuwa is looking worried, and Ulaan is looking surprised. And he says, with the strategic location of the Shan kingdom and a massive army of allied troops, the king of Qianli is about to lay siege to our largest civilian city in the west. And now the Qianli king has sent word that with each day that we do not surrender to him, they will slaughter an entire civilian family until none are left in the city. And I think this whole moment, I mean, obviously it's a whole political thing, but the biggest thing I took from this is that Yuwa is seeing for the first time the perspective of the Northern Kingdom, whom she was always told were barbarians, were evil, were murderers. And now she's seeing that they are facing a threat of having their civilians killed. And it's not her kingdom, it's the Qianli king, but those are their allies. And she's seeing it from their perspective, where they're worried about the safety of their citizens.
Well, not to mention, I think that she was she kind of realized that she was, kind of sent out and left by her own family. Like she was set up by her own family is basically what she's learning at this exact moment. And now she's also thinking like, oh well, now I'm in danger,
And it's a really good thing that she told him, at least, even if it was right before, at least before he came in, because that lessens the sense of betrayal, where she at least was starting to tell him the truth, or as much of the truth as she knew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. But still at the same time, like, that's a terrible timing.
Yeah. And it's definitely going to set up some conflict in the next episode.
Yeah, I don't see coming back from that very easily. That's for sure. Sorry, this one's coming in. But
yeah, but you know what? I will say, he didn't reveal his identity to her for the time that he knew her. And you know what? She did the same thing. So I guess it's even. I don't know.
Yeah, kind of. But at the same time, she's kind of a honeypot in the situation. Honeypots are usually like female spies that were planted to like throw people off and gather information and stuff like that. And he just realized like, oh, she's the honeypot.
Right. That's sad. I mean, from his perspective, but from both of their perspectives, he feels betrayed and she feels worried that he thinks that her feelings aren't genuine, which is a terrible blow.
He's in a terrible spot. He feels betrayed. She has been betrayed by her family. And now she's worried that he's going to think, oh, this is a setup, basically. So, man, even though she's, being, held mostly naked by this like hot dude, I don't really envy her in that situation all that much, because that's a lot to deal with right then.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out in the next episode, but it definitely causes issues.
Yeah.
And there's a note. I just want to read that last note that it says that civilians from Ulaan's kingdom in the north are regularly relocated to conquered kingdoms in other regions to escape from drought and famine. Okay, I don't quite see how important that is, but it's okay.
Yeah, there was actually this manga I read. It's called Yona of the Dawn. I think is what the name is. It's been a while since I read it. But that in their kingdom there were four. Sorry, it's been a while. But one of the kingdoms it was hard to grow anything. It was like really arid, you know, and there's a lot of places like that. You know, Asia's huge place and it has probably every climate type you can think of in there. But yeah, there's definitely like there's a lot of you know, desert and all that kind of stuff. They had to figure out how to grow stuff, and that was actually the cause of a lot of tribal feuding in China and Japan, was over resources, you know, and actually in Korea as well too. Like, you know, if you look at the history of the area, there's a lot of like, well, we need to take this place over because we don't have resources and they have resources. So, you know, going back and forth over the different, you know, just like the different time periods, you know, like in China, it's mostly measured by dynasties, you know. So, but that was a lot of what's going on over there. So definitely, I feel like this is like, as somebody who went to college for history, this is definitely pretty historic. I mean, it's not exactly historically accurate, but you know, it's definitely like an accurate thing to portray. So
Okay. This was a great episode. I love it. It's just so romantic and beautiful.
it is. I really got to 𝗕𝗏𝗃 all those background details. She didn't have to put that much work into it, but she did. And considering, I mean, she was writing this at the same time, you know, that she was also doing 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀. Like, dang, Lily.
Yeah, and I think actually, I don't think she was even working on it full time. I think she still had a job then too, which is
yeah, because this is back when I think that 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀 was also on Canvas. So, I mean, she was doing this. She's doing two of them with amazing art and amazing attention to detail while not getting paid for any of it.
Yeah. Well, I want to end the episode here and do some bonus questions. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay.